Before I welcome today's guest, I wanted to take a moment to thank this season's presenting sponsor, ShopMy. ShopMy is a platform that connects designers, tastemakers, and creators with shoppers who trust their style and recommendations. With ShopMy, you can discover and shop the pieces experts actually use and love in their own homes, all in one beautifully curated place. This season, we're bringing ShopMy directly into the conversation. Each guest will share why they love the platform and the thought behind the products they've chosen for their own ShopMy storefronts. I personally love using my ShopMy account, and you can check out my own storefront in the show notes. So let's dive right in.
I think one of the reasons that after 30 years, we still enjoy this and thrive in it is that we were so naive, we were idealistic. To be an architect and not be idealistic, it has to be the worst job in the world. I mean, it would be awful. There's no chance I would do it.
Welcome to Talk Shop. I'm Ariel Okin, a New York-based interior designer, writer, and editor, looking to bring a little bit of magic into our homes every day. After years as a writer and editor in the interiors world, I founded my own editorial site, Fenimore Lane, in 2020, and the Talk Shop interview series was born. Each week, I delve into the personal experiences of the top interior designers and tastemakers around the globe. Welcome back to a brand new season of Talk Shop with me, Ariel Okin. I'm so excited to kick things off with not one, but two incredible guests, Bill Curtis and Russell Windham, founding principals of the award-winning Houston-based firm Curtis and Windham Architects. For more than 3 decades, Bill and Russell have created some of the most admired homes and gardens in the country, works that beautifully bridge classical architecture with the way we live today. Their firm is built on a shared belief in craftsmanship, proportion, and a deep respect for history, while always making space for warmth, comfort, and livability. Their work has been recognized with numerous awards and has been published widely in Architectural Digest, Veranda, and Elle Decor, and most recently documented beautifully in their new book with Rizzoli, Building on Tradition, a stunning follow-up to their first monograph, A Vision of Place. The book offers an intimate look at their evolution as architects and the project's principles and philosophy that continue to shape their timeless work. So please join me as I welcome Bill and Russell to the podcast. Bill and Russell, thank you so much for coming on Talk Shop. I am so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's nice to join you.
Yeah, we're grateful for the opportunity.
Well, to kick off the conversation, we ask everyone who comes on, can each of you describe your styles in 3 words or less?
Okay. Bill, you want to go first?
Sure. Bill Curtis would probably think about using the word appropriate. Another word might be mannered, and disciplined would be my 3 words.
Said like a true architect.
This is Russell Windham. When I saw this question, and I thought that you were going to be thinking more about interior design, so I would call my taste old lady English.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. I feel like both of your answers combine to kind of give your general style into one, which I love also.
But it also shows you the distance between our personalities.
Yeah. But that's why I feel like all partnerships work really well, and yours work so well because of that. You kind of complement each other on both ends of the spectrum.
We agree.
So for those listening, tell us a little bit about yourselves and where you are at this point in your careers right now.
So we've been incredibly fortunate. And the threshold moment for this particular event today is because we've just published a new book. But we've also gotten to a point, I think, in our careers where the opportunities that come to us, you begin to see the opportunities differently than you did a long time ago, that you can actually know that you're going to create something that is wherever you want to take it. And when you can do that and you eschew having to kind of worry about other things, you really can go a lot further with the solutions. And so I feel really happy that we're in that position where we're got enough wisdom, enough gray hair, perhaps, that we can push things where we would like them to go for our clients.
You know, I would agree with that. I would also add on to it. What's really interesting being in business for so long is we just have a great office of really passionate, smart people that you sort of look at and you see yourself 20 years ago. And so, you know, that youthful exuberance, to see it in the office just allows you to do more and think outside the box, because in a way it gives us time to be, you know, thinking about what's next, what are you interested in, and in a way be a creative force within the office, which is a nice place that we've grown into.
Yeah, that really ties into the title of your book, right? So for those listening, the title of their book, which just came out, is called Building on Tradition. And I think what you guys have just outlined is really kind of speaks to that, right? Like you have gotten to this place where you are building on the foundation that you've built of this incredible career and firm that the two of you have built together. So that's really amazing. And before we dive into how you two met and founded the firm, which I really want to hear about, let's learn a little bit about both of you and how architecture and design came into each of your lives.
Well, I feel like I really didn't have any choice. My father built a building when I was 6 years old, and he took me to the construction site and he took me to the architect's offices, and I was fascinated by both. And I honestly can't remember ever thinking about any other path in my life than being an architect.
Wow. Isn't it amazing how something can strike you at such a young age and you just, I really think it's innate in people. And if you listen to your gut instinct, it will lead you to where you need to go.
Well, the one time I thought, well, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. You have these little moments of crises and thought, maybe this isn't the right thing. And I spent about 5 minutes trying to think about what the alternative would be and realized, no, I'm on the right path. And
no, this is what I'm doing.
Never again thought about it.
That's amazing. And Russell, what about you? How did you find yourself drawn to architecture?
Well, it sort of seems like the story of my life. I grew up in a small, small town. I've never lost this argument that I came from a town of 65 people.
Oh my God.
Basically grew up on a farm with animals, those sort of things. And we just were makers. You know, if you needed this or that, you figured out how to make it or, that sort of thing. And so I was going off to college and my brother was just finishing college and he said, asked me, what are you going to study? And I said, well, I don't know. I guess I'll figure it out. And he said, no, you should definitely go to architecture school. And I said, well, I'll give that a try and see how it goes. And
wow.
Fortunately, he was right. And I loved it, except that I didn't believe all the stuff they were trying to teach me. But that's kind of my nature. But yeah, he was right. And I've never really looked back.
That's amazing. And you started the firm in 1992. So can you take us back to, that's over 30 years ago. Like, how did your paths first cross and how did you decide to build a practice together?
So 30 plus years ago, friends of mine from Houston I was living in Washington, D.C., practicing with Hartman Cox, and friends would come and visit, and they were close friends, and they finally said, Bill, why aren't you doing this for yourself? I must have been innately kind of selling that I was capable of doing this, and they got the message and began to talk to me about it. And so eventually I started doing some research and came to Houston and decided to move here. And so that's how I got here, was just through the cajoling of old friends.
Being from a small farming place, every year we went to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo where we participated. And I just liked Houston. Being from a place of 65 people, any city, I couldn't sleep when I would go to a city.
I bet.
And just loved it. And I had been working in England and just couldn't get a long-term work visa. And so was faced with just, what do you do now? And so Houston, I always liked and just moved on a whim. And, and then Bill and I met through a mutual friend. And, I think the thing that really attracted us to one another, Bill may have a different story, but I think we're consistent on this, was he had been in firms and cities and was passionate about making architecture. That's where I came from. It's just, you wanted to build great things. So we met and fed off of one another and then just started trying to meet people. One thing clicked and we got a project and the time in Houston was perfect. And, it really is, sort of like pinch me. We had an idea and we worked real hard and we hit Houston at just the right time and things clicked. And, here we are 30 some odd years later. It's kind of hard to believe.
The other thing about being in Houston, Houston it's a town where people drill holes in the ground and kind of hope they hit oil. So risk-taking, calculated risks as scientists come to us, but back in the day, it was wildcatting. And so we had been working in great firms who were expected to produce things that were extraordinarily of extraordinary high expectation urbanistically or in any other way that they were working. That's the context in which we learned. It was rigorous. It was high expectation, high stakes poker kind of. And so we came to Houston. It was at the end of an oil bust. And so most of the architects had been obliged to leave town, frankly. There was a long bust of about 8 years or so.
Oh, wow.
And there really wasn't a lot of people standing when we got here. And we naively picked Houston because we thought it would give us a chance, and it did. But the thing is that second generation wealth had been, in my mind, had been on the sideline for a while through this oil bust, was ready to go. They were in their 50s, ready to build things. And we showed up at the same time, and we had only pitched great ideas. Had only been around making great ideas through Simpson or Hartman Cox. And when we got here, we just threw ideas out on the table that were big. We didn't know to be modest or, be
right.
a little bit reserved, or we might be taking a risk by pitching something that was really expensive to build or whatever. And every time we pitched one, the client went, "That's a great idea. Let's build it." And so we just started down that platform and have never left it. It's just good ideas are good ideas and people want them. That's what we found in Houston. People took advantage of it.
And that's a really good advice for young designers and architects listening. Like, when you have big ideas, sometimes there's a benefit to, when you're just starting, you throw out an idea like that because you're not afraid, or you haven't thought to yourself, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't, X, Y, Z. And keeping that with you throughout the course has been hugely helpful to you, both of you, it sounds.
I'd like to think that it was courageous, but I think it was more naive, that that's just all we knew how to do. And so we did it.
That's amazing.
But architecture's like that. I think one of the reasons that after 30 years, we still enjoy this and thrive in it is that we were so naive, we were idealistic.
Right.
I think to be an architect and not be idealistic, it has to be the worst job in the world. I mean, it would be awful. There's no chance I would do it.
Because it's so black and white. I think the idealism is what makes it romantic and what gives you sort of the story behind the homes that you're building too.
Exactly. For us, it all comes from the client and our trying to interpret what they want.
Yeah.
But if you're not in a position where you can add value to someone else's idea, that's the business of architecture. And I think, unfortunately, the world doesn't really work that way too many times anymore, but it has certainly worked well for us. And like Bill said, we hit Houston. There was a great traditional architect, John Staub, when they were just making our great neighborhoods, and people revere his work. And with the turn down, there really hadn't been a good traditional architect in Houston since John Staub. So I think people saw that, wow, these guys sort of know this traditional classical stuff, and we haven't seen that. And it was just a confluence of all these perfect timing.
Were there any early projects that felt like turning points, like moments where you sort of were like, okay, we're onto something here?
There were a number of them. It's easy to look at one or two that were definite milestones, but I sort of thought about this. Bill may feel differently, but just getting one of the first projects, when you're two guys working, it's not like you're starting a firm. You're just trying to have your next meal,
Right.
And so there were no grand, here's how we're going to build a firm. It was just, we wanted to stay alive. And so, being scrappy and getting those first couple of projects, you get your first one or two and you draw on them, and then they don't work out. But then we got our first two buildings started in the ground, and they were good ones. And that's what got people's attention. And then we had to ramp up quickly thereafter. And, that was a whole different game.
Right. That's its own other set of challenges.
Exactly. First, how do you scratch out a meal? Then how do you hire some people? And, it was like drinking from a fire hydrant.
I think that one of the other things that happened was I can think of three sort of seminal projects that pushed us into another orbit of being beyond two guys and really transformed us into a firm. Part of that was not only the architects that we were allowed to create, but who we were working with. And we got a project in Peconic Bay on an island, and we were working with David Easton. And in Houston, we were working on an 18th century French house.
Oh, wow.
Based on La Lanterne. It was a new house, which is one of the original buildings at Versailles. But a man named Laurent Bourgois was a decorator who'd worked for Henri Samuel, and just exposure to him. And then Bunny Williams on another project. And all these things were going on at the same time. And we'd never worked with a decorator. This was just us.
Oh my God. Well, what an iconic immersion with those three.
Well, it was iconic. But the other thing was the first project that we got that we couldn't figure out how it came to us was pretty cathartic. Like it wasn't through a connection or something. So yeah, I think we kind of knew we were onto something when that started to happen.
I mean, what do they say? Things come in threes, right?
Yeah, true.
And also, I think when you start to hit that momentum, it is like drinking out of a fire hose, and you're sort of like, oh, okay, now it's not like, when is the next project coming? But, how are we going to staff the firm to be able to manage, multiple really high-end projects at once? And you guys have been working together now for over 3 decades, which is just absolutely remarkable. How do your strengths complement each other in the creative process?
We started when we were 5, so we're only 35.
That's a good answer right there, I think. That's
exactly.
What's interesting is I think this worked well for Bill and I. We are very compatible. Unfortunately, right now, we look like two old white guys. We're very similar, but we really see things very differently. And I think the best way to describe that is the way we started. Bill would work on the plans, and I worked on the elevations, which is not typically the way firms work, I don't think. And so,
yeah.
Can I interject that we've always shared an office? So this was happening literally side by side. So it wasn't like we were formally doing one of the things or the other.
I love that you share an office. That's amazing.
Still do.
We still do, yeah.
That's incredible. You guys must finish each other's sentences all the time.
Almost. I like to finish bills just to make sure they're right.
I'm so glad for Russell's counsel always. It's just always interesting.
That's so special. I love when we get the chance to have people on the show that have been in a long-term work partnership like this. We had the Nikki Kehoe team on last season, and I just find it so interesting how you guys complement each other in the creative process and what that workflow looks like. What's one thing you each admire the most about each other and your design sensibilities?
Well, I sort of think of myself a little bit like maybe I'm the tree and Russell's a limb a little bit. And actually he's out on the limb, kind of sawing it off behind him. I mean, he's a risk taker and he's confident, and I like to be a balance to that.
I had not heard Bill describe it that way, but I actually sort of agree with that. I will say this too. Bill and my wife are so similar. They are the steady part of my life, and it allows me to sort of do other things. And I like to remind both of them that I really do consider Bill my first wife.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, 30 years will do that. 30 years of working together is like, you're like family. It's a really special thing.
Well, that's a good way to describe it because, I mean, Bill and I were single when we started. We got married, I think, within a year of one another. Our kids are the same age. They went to the same school. And man, when you have a business partner, you're working like a dog and you're at similar places in life,
it makes a huge difference.
It does. Understanding all the things that the other person is going through is huge.
One other thing I admire Russell, and probably vice versa, is that, when you're this kind of two-man partnership and you've got all this kind of avalanche hitting you, you have to figure out what's important to each other. And we don't argue. Russell, I don't remember ever arguing about anything particularly.
That's amazing.
But we do have to know when to compromise. And what what's important to me, sometimes he'll just let me have it, or I'll let Russell have it, or I'll plant a seed with Russell and a couple months later I'll come back. He said, I had this great idea. It's like, oh, that is a great idea, So we've kind of figured out, I do that to you, Russell, you just don't know it. But I think we've had to figure out how to get on. We had so much happening that we couldn't dally around and not conclude. And I think for a lot of our architects, concluding is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that we made an agreement years and years ago. We have been very fortunate and only had a few projects where we got cross with people. But when we're interviewing people, what they don't know is we are actually interviewing the potential clients, to see if we want to work for them as much as they are interviewing us. And we just made an agreement with one another years ago. If either one of us are a little bit skeptical, something doesn't feel right, we say no thank you and we steer clear.
You've both been really deeply involved with the ICAA, the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art, and you both lecture widely. Why do you think education and mentorship is such a key part of your work?
Mentorship in particular is another avenue to the people that you work with learning lessons that perhaps you've already learned. One of the greatest mentorships that ever happened to me was not really about architecture. It was about being a social person in relationship to people who might one day become clients. And so learning how to get out in the world and participate in it as a social creature has paid dividends as a professional.
That's such a good piece of advice that I've never heard given in the context of what we do, but is so true.
Yeah, if you're not out kind of making yourself aware or engaging in what the world has to offer, you're leaving a lot on the table that just for yourself, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed being involved really on two levels. I just fundamentally think that architects and architecture right now in the state of the world are devastating and making the world ugly and a horrible place to live. And so there's a way to not do that. And it's through building beautiful places. And so for me, it's not just mentorship, it's trying. And if people will just take a moment and say, why is one place nice and another place is not nice? Why can't I advocate for good? Just in our time working and our involvement with the ICAA, we're already seeing it's a little bit of a difference. There are more architecture schools teaching traditional and classical architecture than there has been in a long time, and that's exciting to see. It's exciting to see there's two or three startup firms in Houston from people that came from our office that are passionate.
Oh, I love that.
They're doing really good work. And so that's, for me, the biggest reason why I got involved. But after being involved, there's just nothing like a young architect you see yourself in. They're passionate, they're excited, and to mentor them and to offer your, hopefully, a little time-honored wisdom. It's just fantastic to see people doing great work.
It's amazing. It's amazing also to hear that you both place it, mentorship and education, as such a crucial piece of what you guys are doing, because you look at it also as a way to guarantee longevity for classical architecture, which I think is such a wise lens to look at it. And I joined the ICAA. There's like a young members group in New York, and it's wonderful. And we got memberships for everybody on my team, and it's just fantastic. I mean, the programming is incredible. So a little plug for the ICAA. If you're anyone listening, you should definitely check them out and maybe try to go to an event. So let's chat a little bit about working in design. What is your favorite thing about doing what you do?
I love the opportunity to get a job. I love thinking about how to strategize about putting myself in a position to be the person or the office that's acceptable to that client to do what they're talking about doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love to work on the part where we're conceptualizing and conceiving of it with my members of our staff. I find that just like an adrenaline rush. And it's like I hate to wait for someone to kind of process an idea that we're talking about because it takes time. I just want to have it I just want to keep flowing with it. And, there's that term flow, and
Yeah.
you get a lot of good out of that. And I love that part the best. It's just totally rewarding to me to see it emerge and see it get better and better iteratively, which is how we practice. There's no voila here. It's just hard work and processing it over and over and over again. And Russell and I don't quit. We don't give up. It's like it can always be better. And so we're never afraid to just change the paradigm slightly and go at it a different way, and it always gets better.
I have to say, I still like the whole process. It's great to chase a project. It's great to initiate it. I still like the part of putting together the drawings and figuring out how you're building it. And because what I really like about the profession is it's so diverse. And so whatever I'm feeling that day, if I'm feeling inspired and creative, I can go do that. If I want to go fight with a contractor because he's done something wrong, there's some days I like a good fight, and it's therapeutic. So I don't mind doing that either.
That's so true. I know it is multifaceted what we get to do. I mean, you're interfacing with on the service end, it's like a service business in terms of like working with the client. And then you've got vendors and contractors. And then, you can just kind of get lost in the creative portion of it in a solo way or with your team or with the client. I mean, there's so many different avenues that it's like every day is a choose your own adventure.
A little bit. Yeah.
Is there an architecture rule that either of you always follow, or do you think there's one that's particularly made to be broken?
I'll jump in on that. It's funny. I don't really think there are rules. And, being a classical architect, I think if people hear this, they may like, what is that guy talking about? There
Yeah.
are no rules. One thing that we talk about all the time, and I think it sort of sums that up, the two most important things are free, and that's scale and proportion. And so there's just no way around it. If you can't master those two components, you can't do anything.
Right.
But if you really understand it and you can manipulate it, you can make a building or a room or a piece of furniture say anything with just those two simple principles.
I think it helps too, Russell, that we're such students of architectural history. We, like some of our colleagues in America, have a huge library of architectural and decorative books, art books. And we are always looking at history as a way to support or justify an idea or inform something that we might evolve into another idea. And I think you combine that with scale and proportion, boy, you have kind of an unstoppable situation where you can really solve any problem.
Totally. And that applies to design too. I mean, I think the more history you know about whether it's architecture or interior design, and the more you have the basics really down pat, then you can really fly and iterate it on as many things as you want to. A little bit about both of you. What do you think your home says about each of you?
Well, just built a house, finished it 2 years ago. I think it says all the things about those three words that I started this talk with about being appropriate and mannered and disciplined. But it has all those things. But we were working around a giant tree.
Oh, wow.
So I was having to pay attention to something that was a different kind of contextual situation. The tree won.
Yeah.
But we also knew that we wanted to live in a very well decorated house. So it's very colorful. Ann Wolf and Ashley Holden did the work on it with me and my wife, Jane. And so I really liked the fact that the landscape, the architecture, and the decoration are an ideal confluence in how I wanted to create a house for us to live in. And so we tried to achieve that.
And it's so special doing it for yourself. I mean, especially after doing it, I think it's harder to do it for yourself.
It took some energy.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's about concluding. If you're into architectural history and you have a million examples floating around in your head, which Russell and I both do, editing and then getting to some synthesis of conclusion was the hard part. We got there.
Totally. When you have a client and you have a very clear brief from the client it's just easier to say, oh, well, this is exactly where they should go. But when it's for yourself and you have so many different things that you love, it's much harder.
I think my style would be considered, again, I'll go back to old lady English experimental. because everything's always changing. Again, I'm married to an accountant. Opposites do attract. And she's like, you've already done this 5 times. Why do you keep changing everything? So
That's amazing. I have to say, I'm the same way. And my husband's always like, we don't need another chair or sideboard or case piece or
Yes, you do. You need more. Absolutely, you need more.
exactly. Thank you. And now I can tell him that Bill and Russell said so and they agree with me.
We agree.
Where do you guys find your inspiration? I know I'm sure that library is a big piece of it.
I see things when I travel, obviously, and it used to be that every trip had to go see certain specific buildings and whatnot. And now I'm more comfortable just observing as we go. Russell and I were in Chicago, and had a project in Houston some years ago, and we both saw this detail on a church that solved a problem that we'd both been mulling over. So,
Wow.
you just have to be intuitively alert. And then I also enjoy painting watercolor, and that really has transformed the way I see architecture and what its colors and the values and how it presents itself. And it's painting is more gestural as opposed to rigorous, like the architectural side of things. So that
Yeah.
ability to see something from a different perspective has, I think, helped me open up and be able to explore some different things I might not have even been aware of before.
Wow. That's so interesting. I love that.
well, for me, it's books and travel, and it really is the combination. I mean, obviously, you can see a lot more in a book, but for me, when I see something in a book, I'm intrigued by it. And then when I actually get to see it and experience it, it's always just shocking to me how it's not quite exactly what I had conjured in my mind, you know, and it goes back to scale and proportion. And most of the time, when I see something, get to experience it after thinking about it and seeing it in books, there's something about the scale that just sort of blows my mind, and I have to reframe how I think about it again. And certainly that's Lutyens is a great inspiration for both of us, and at this point we've both seen a whole lot of his houses, and so all of those things, you think about it for so long, and then to actually experience it, for me, that little readjustment it's just so much fun.
It's also so cool to be able to go, you deep dive on these important historic homes and then you can actually physically go see them in person. It's so cool. Well, one thing I'm really excited to chat with you both about is your storefronts that you made for us, which is a new element of the show this season for Talk Shop, where we are having all of our guests create their own storefront on ShopMy. So, a couple questions for you. I mean, one, what is currently on your wish list, and what is your favorite thing that you put in your storefront?
I have to tell you, until you ask us what's on your storefront, I didn't know what a storefront was.
Well, it's so cool because one of my favorite things about working with ShopMy now, and I have my own storefront that I'm adding to all the time, is you can put your favorite things, whether it's interiors or furniture pieces or entertaining pieces or books. Like we have a whole library section on ours. And I saw you guys put some incredible books in your storefront, which everybody should go check out. But you can kind of create your own digital store on there. And I had so much fun looking through what you guys picked.
I had a fun time working on that because we did not have that. So now we do. It's fantastic. But I, obviously led with books. Both Russell and I buy books without even giving it a second thought. And there's always books coming in the office, and just to get one and open it up and be, amused, amazed, inspired, whatever it is always, it's that rush feeling. It's like you're looking for something to kind of tweak you. We added a section about the Institute of Classical Architecture and Arts books because they are really doing great work at not only publishing The Classicist, which is their magazine, which catalogs regional chapter activities. So the books on McKimmey White and Edmund Lutyens that they're republishing, which have been out of print for so long and unattainable for most people, those are great things. And then we do a lot of shopping for our projects, and so there's some favorite stores and places where you can get things that we all like that were contained within there, I guess, which is what you'd expect.
I was so excited looking through it. There were so many good picks, and I was really, really excited about the books because one of the questions that we always ask on the show is favorite design book, which we'll get to at the end of our Take 10. But I'm constantly buying the books that our guests refer on here. And it's really exciting to have a place where we can catalog it now and listeners can go and click and see and find these things in real life, which is great. Is there something on your wish list that are in your storefronts that you're excited about?
Well, there's one picture on our list, and it's a picture of a foot. It's on a page where reference Jam in London, a great store. I was at Pritzhanger Manor looking at John Soane's first house, which is in Ealing outside of London, and I noticed that there's these carotids on top of the parapet. Pretty bold move to put carotids on top of your own house, but
yeah.
Anyway, I got anecdotally reading about them, and they were made of cast material. They weren't carved like you would expect them to be from the 18th century. You would think they'd be carved. So I was at Jam later in that travels that week, and I noticed they had this sculpture laying around, and there was an arm that looked like a Michelangelo arm that would be in a painting in the Sistine Chapel, and there was a leg and a foot. So I called my wife and I said, I'm gonna get one of these arms. I think it'd be great to have it in our house. And she vetoed it promptly. And I said, well, if we can't have an arm, we're gonna have a foot. So that foot's in there because if thing's like 18 inches long, it's huge, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And Jam has the most incredible, it's one of the most beautiful places to visit. And also like the mantles are just out of this world and the quality and craftsmanship.
Well, they're great to work with.
Yes, they are wonderful to work with. What about you, Russell? What kind of items did you include in your storefront?
I love furniture too. And, all that George Smith upholstered furniture is just
so good.
fantastic. And there's such a wide range of styles and vibes to all that furniture. I've always admired that. But then also that Liz O'Brien chair.
So beautiful.
In so many ways, there's just a tweak to the proportions of it. So, it seems familiar, but with that low back, it's just something a little different. There's so many good products out there now that are traditional. When I first moved back from England, I wanted to start a chair company because chairs were just all made for big fat Americans, and they just changed the scale and it ruined everything.
Well, to your point before about if you get the scale right, then you can get everything right.
Exactly. That's half the battle. And I don't know, there's just so many nice products out there that have a slight contemporary. They're not exactly the same, but they've evolved a little, and I don't know, it's just kind of an exciting time, I think.
It is. There's so much out there, and I think one of the benefits of having, especially like a curated storefront like this, is you don't have to, people listening often are like, where do I start, or where do I go, or how do I look at the right silhouette to look for as I'm trying to furnish my home, or, things like that. And to be able to go to a curated place like your shop, which listeners can click on in the link and in the show notes, it can really help people find beautiful, amazing things that they wouldn't have been otherwise been able to find. And it's curated so beautifully. So everybody listening, definitely head over to Bill and Russell's shop in the link because it's wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to get into our Take 10, which are our final rapid fire questions, which have nothing really to do about design, but we always like to ask them because they are fun and I like to hear people's answers. So what is your favorite food?
Indian food in London.
He took that right away from me. I'm even more specific. The lamb chops at Tamarind in Mayfair.
Ooh, good.
That's better, Russell. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Favorite drink?
I'm a red wine guy. I love American red wines and French.
For me, a gin martini, shaken, not stirred.
Both very, very classic answers. It fits, I think. Favorite film?
There's bunches, right? But the one that kind of came to the top of my mind was Get Shorty.
No, my favorite, no questions, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Another really classic, amazing movie. Favorite hotel? And you both travel so much, so I know you have been everywhere.
It's likely we have the same answer, but I would say Claridge's.
I knew Bill was going to answer Claridge's, so I'm going with the Connaught instead.
Oh, two incredible places, though. I mean, talk about legendary hotels. Favorite city? I think if I have to guess, I think you guys are going to say London.
It's pretty much tops right now. Yeah.
Well, it's my favorite too. So, favorite bedding. We always ask that because I always we get like such a mix of like Porto and linen and all these different answers.
I enjoy Matuk.
Me too. So crisp.
Yeah, perfect.
On the same page.
I love that. Tea or coffee, and how do you take it?
Iced tea, black, no lemon, no sugar.
I don't think Bill's ever even had a cup of coffee.
Never.
That is amazing.
Never. That's saying something. You go all the way through architecture school, no coffee, but it happens.
Yes, seriously.
Mine is coffee, and I can have it black or a latte, but just black coffee's fine for me.
Favorite playlist or music to listen to?
My kids are all in their 20s and they know every song from the 70s because I made them listen to it in my car the whole time. So I would have to say 70s.
I love that.
Mine's sort of diverse. Right now I'm listening to a lot of Parker McCollum, and it can go from there to the old Water Boys. It's just all over the place.
It's amazing how you can grow up. My dad is 78, so I grew up with a lot of Sinatra in my house and Tony Bennett and era. And then my mom is 64, so I also grew up with a lot of 70s. So I run the gamut of knowledge of these things just because of osmosis with my parents. Favorite weekend activity?
Well, I'll either be painting watercolors or I'll be hacking around trying to play golf.
I like being outside as much as I can, and I don't get to do it as much as I like downtime, but also, we're from Texas. I love to quail shoot and fly fish and even go snow skiing. So that's my downtime stuff. I'm not sure that's weekend, but that's downtime stuff.
Yeah. And being outside, I think also just in general, you get so much inspiration from nature too. And it's so good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. The hardest question that I think we ask everyone, favorite design book?
I think the one that I touch most frequently is the monograph on the work of Mellor Meigs and Howe, the great mainline Philadelphia architects. It's just so packed with information and all the good things.
Oh, I'm going to have to get that. I'm from Gladwin.
Okay. Well, you should have it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it had essays by like Paul Cray and people that were Philadelphia stalwarts. And it's drawn and photographed beautifully. In fact, Russell and I have been on these journeys where we've kind of stalked those houses and have had more than a few adventures trying to get close to them. But it's a great book.
It's such a special place.
In the main line, I was there once and I was looking at this house I'd always wanted to see called the McCracken House. And I got close to it and this dog came running after me. He was like a mastiff. He was as big as I was. And I started running because I had no choice. And I could see my wife in the car like 100 yards away. And I'm going, I'm not going to make it. This thing's going to eat me.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
And he stopped just abruptly because he had an invisible collar on. And Russell and I've always said, you can't really be a good architect unless you've risked life and limb to go kind of see this stuff.
I mean, that's true dedication and passion right there.
It is, absolutely.
For me, I was passionate about architecture and early on saw early work going on at Seaside, Florida in magazines. And so I went to work for the firm that was doing the first houses there.
Oh, wow.
The guy I worked for, Robert Orr, was into books. And it was the first time I'd been exposed to sort of studying architecture through precedent and books. And so, people ask me all the time, what's your favorite book? And it'd be like, who's your favorite child? It's just too hard.
I know. It's like the hardest question.
Yeah. I think just learning to use books as precedent for architecture was just a revelation to me. And it sounds so obvious that I don't understand why that was such a significant moment for you, but it really was. And learning also to back up an argument. Why should we do that? Well, look, McKim and White did it or whoever. So, man, it's just too hard to say which one. We use Lutyens all the time. We love Lutyens. There's too many.
I too had that experience where my mentor, a man named Warren Cox, had an incredible personal library, and he got to where he trusted me enough to share bits and pieces of it with me. So that's the first time I ever saw the 4 books and a real one and others. He handed me a Stewart and Rivette one day when we were talking about the Doric order, and I just began to be fascinated with where that information might take me and how it might aid. So I agree with Russell. Really, there's hard to pick a favorite, but I notice our Miller Meigs is pretty dog-eared.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so much fun. I have learned so much from both of you, and I'm so glad that you guys got to come on. Final few words. What are you working on right now? Is there any new or exciting project you can talk about?
Yeah, we don't have sort of complete restriction about that from our clients. Thank goodness. We get to talk a little bit about what we're, and our practice has evolved a lot where we're working on a lot of different kind of projects. These same clients that we had early on or take us to other venues, other typological opportunities, if you will. We're doing several schools in Houston right now that are.
Wow, that's so cool.
It is cool. It is a lot of fun. And from a school to a stone cabin on the bank of a river in central Texas out in the middle of nowhere. It looks like an old fire tower. So, we just try to respond in a creative way for whatever our clients are offering us and wherever it is.
That's awesome.
The great thing about having such horrible weather all summer in Houston,
My cousin lives there. It's so bad in the summer. It's so, so, so hot.
it is. But the great thing about that, all the clients we work for in Houston need a second place to get out of that heat.
Oh,
So they load their hunting dogs and their architects up and take us to really fabulous places. And
yep.
I have been on the road for a while just because we just finished a really big project in the Cotswolds in England for a really good
Wow.
Houston client. And that's been fun because the craftsman there, it's been a delight to work with. And then we're doing a bunch of work down in the Bahamas, and that's interesting. The crafts aren't like they are in England, but it's kind of what's interesting about traditional architecture. You have to figure out what can the market, and I don't mean cost, but just what can the market do? Because you can't ask people to do things that they can't, or everyone's just frustrated.
Yeah. And I'm sure like that in turn shapes the vernacular of the location too.
Yes, absolutely.
It does. I mean, that's the beauty of traditional architecture is the vernacular typically for good reason. So you have to tap into that and understand it. And there's one or two of them we probably should have understood a little better because we're having to import so much stuff that the market just can't do. So,
Oh, yeah, I bet. But what cool places to be working in simultaneously.
it is. So we have been very fortunate and extremely busy.
And our last question that we always ask everyone, what is your best advice for someone looking to define their own interiors or architectural style?
I think that you got to have passion. Without it, you're just kind of run aground before you get started. And you have to have sort of an energy level that you self-sustain to make yourself pleased with your results, and to be not afraid to change your thought process to go in a slightly different direction may help you solve the problem. And so just being flexible and being inspired by your travels and your readings and looking at paintings or just observations in a city, all those things add up. And if you're working with great people, those people can inspire you as well. So it's a holistic sort of immersion that I think if you're not in it, I don't know how you get anywhere.
I would agree completely. You have to have a whole lot of passion, a whole lot of drive, but be willing to listen. I do think that architecture and design is created when everyone, whether it's the client, the architect, the contractor, everyone listens and really wants to work toward an end result that makes everyone happy. But it really is passion that drives this stuff.
It's true. Passion and hearing other people and coming to a common ground on a project. I think those two things together are such a recipe for success. Well, Bill and Russell, this was such a delight, and I'm so happy to have had you on, and I'm so excited to meet you guys at your book party in a couple of days.
Fantastic.
And congratulations again on the release of your book with Rizzoli. Building on Tradition, the work of Curtis and Windham Architects, is out now. So for those listening, we're going to link it in the show notes, and everybody should get a copy. It's absolutely stunning and has so much amazing information in it. Thank you. And where can listeners find more about you and the firm?
The best place is our website. You know, we're pretty basic when it comes to marketing and whatnot.
But your website was just rebranded and it's so beautiful.
It was. They did a fantastic job and we're happy with it. And so I think it captures sort of who we are and where we are right now. And I think it represents, you know, architecture that's about clients, their place, and their budget. It's not about us. We're just the interpreters.
Well, this was amazing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys later this week. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Ariel. It's been a pleasure to be on the show with you.
It has. And we'll see you later.
Thanks again to my guests today for joining me, and to ShopMy for sponsoring this season of Talk Shop. Head to the show notes to create your free shopper account and explore the curated storefronts from this season's designers. We'll be back next week with more thoughtful discussions and amazing guests. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube so you never miss an episode. And of course, follow me at Ariel Okin. See you next week.